Yer! What's good, big dogs? Welcome back into the BDGE Dynasty channel. What is poppin'? We got Christian in here. Let's go. What up, broski? We got Dylan, David Lee. Appreciate you guys being here. And how are you guys today? Let's talk about it. How are your teams doing? And I know we do this every week, but, things can change in a jiffy between injuries, appendicitis, all kinds of stuff going on. How's the squads doing? How we feeling on this final weekend, man? Friday is here, and at least at the time being, because we're going overseas, playing in Madrid this week, we're going to Fridays are for the big dogs, not Saturdays. Saturdays are also for the big dogs, though. Make sure you check out bdge.co. If you go over there, become a big dog member, you get access to the Dynasty stream that we do here once a week. Typically, it's on Saturdays, but we do it on Fridays when we have international games, because on Saturday, you can tap into Nick doing a live stream, basically doing start, sit, questions and advice for your teams on a weekly basis. Christian, you tagged me in that, and I'll be honest, it's in a Discord I'll shout out to that I'm not normally looking at. I saw it and then I lost track of it. So can you give me the trade again, or send it to my DMs or something? I saw you got Drake London, right? And you moved off of maybe Garrett Wilson. I did see it. I wanted to go over it in more detail today on stream. So if you could send me the details on that. That was in the league we went over a couple weeks ago. Love to see it. Huge performance last night from Travion Henderson. I mean, the yardage department wasn't necessarily crazy, but getting 3 touchdowns, and this is what I don't understand. Just maybe somebody out there can help me. He looks that good, and it's not really surprising when he gets to work. Why, Vrabel? Why? I know it's the Jets, so you got to take it with a grain of salt, but baffling that he hasn't been getting more touches early. But hey, good to see him finally get them, and you're kind of hoping. I have plenty of shares of Travion Henderson where, you see this sometimes out of rookies, rookie running backs, where they're, in a timeshare or, not getting the full snap share, so to speak, and then they start to really explode second half of the season, and they could end up being, a league winner. So we will see how he continues to play. My man. All right. Let's go ahead and pull this thing up here. So you got Drake London and Parker Washington. Oh, okay. That's a sneaky little ad in there. Yeah, that's what I thought was Garrett Wilson. So you sent away Garrett Wilson, 26 first, and a third. It's your own. And you got back Drake London and Washington. I think it definitely feels heavy going from Garrett Wilson to Drake London to add a first. But, the quarterback situation and the numbers don't really lie at the moment. So while that's heavy, I also definitely think Parker Washington for a single third would be a steal. So I like it. Oh, nice. And you're telling me that first is in this class, and it's going to be, if you get a bye, you're locking in at least it's the 108 or 9 minimum. So I'm definitely aboard that. It still feels, it doesn't feel the greatest, but at this point of the year, if you can tell me that's why I like to hold my first. It'd be nice if you knew, hey, this is a better first to send away, but then your team wouldn't be that good. And while it's a later first, you now have the conviction of it. If you would have made that trade, right? I don't think you would have in the middle of the season, but just hypothetically, if you make a trade like that where you send away your first thinking it's late, now all of a sudden it's not, and your team's not in a position to be in a bye, oof, it's not a good position to be in personally for me. Okay, did it the week prior against the Bucs too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that was the thing. We've seen the yardage to me isn't really necessarily a concern. You would have liked to see more, but the one thing we know is throughout the preseason and this entire year, he has that home run hitting ability. So, he gets any carry, gets a crease, he could be gone. Yeah, I like this trade for you, dude. I do. I think, again, it's not like, because you're sending away the first, it's not like you're like, damn, I got over on somebody. But sometimes you don't have to win every single trade. And this is just, I think, a trade at the moment where you want to secure much better points. And obviously with Garrett Wilson going to IR, even more important move for you. So I'm aboard, man. It is tough though. I will say, gosh, I was so high on Garrett Wilson going into last year, and I still think he's as a talent. Maybe not the truly elite tier like the top 5, but I think he's really close. Honestly, you give this guy a quarterback, and we keep saying that though. The Jets are the Jets. I think I saw longest playoff drought in all sports, so pretty rough. Justin Fields too is just you'd like to see some of the runs, but honestly, his processing it's kind of mind numbing to me. It's just like you see him sometimes just sit in the pocket and trying to find something that's not there. Pretty rough. Spam similar offers throughout the league. That was the first one to accept. Nah, I feel you here for sure. I definitely feel you there. I mean, I think Garrett Wilson probably doesn't get you to the next tier of wide receivers, truthfully, anyway. It's actually interesting because Drake London was a guy that shout out Corey Mercer. I don't know if he's going to end up being here or not today, but kind of was doing a similar, reviewing his team similarly to yours, Christian, and he ended up getting a Drake London deal done. So love to see it, man. Yeah, this is a great question. So at the moment right now, I was doing this for Rico Dotto, and now I don't think necessarily I would. It's not because he didn't. The performance he had, last week isn't really the issue for me. It's just that the cost is kind of seemingly catching up. I still think if you can get Rico Dowdle for me, if I can get Rico Dowdle for less than a first, a second, couple seconds, I'm really in. The Rico Dowdle is a guy that type of back where he's getting all that type of work is pretty rare at this point of the year, randomly, or one that we didn't see coming. And I think a lot of the way a lot of my teams are built, Dylan, is that I typically in lineup leagues, especially, I try to have really good receivers, and I might be a little bit thin at running back, and try to just stash a bunch of running backs on the bench, hoping to hit a lottery ticket. So I did hit a couple Rico lottery tickets, but then what I'm trying to do if I don't have a player like that, or if I'm weak at the running back position, is kind of use my draft pick leverage, or young players with some upside that haven't done much this year. Think of like a Matthew Golden or something like that. Try to use those picks and those dangle pieces to go get running back, fill-ins. And right now, to me, Rico Dowdle is probably the best, the best scenario of a guy that isn't viewed like he has crazy long-term upside. Although I don't know that we don't. To me, the way he's playing, he could end up being the bell cow for another year for sure here. Let me actually think about that though. There's a couple other ones, and let me see who else I've been buying lately. Trying to think here. I think this definitely varies based on your format too. Like if it's a PPR lineup league, let's say we're starting 9 players, right? I kind of shorten up the list of players I'm willing to go buy in a scenario like that. I was going to say there was honestly, I'll tell you another one. Pittman to me is a guy that's I didn't think I was going to be saying this, but he's another guy that I've been kind of buying. If I've already penciled in a late first, let's say, I'm in a similar situation as Christian. Maybe I haven't locked up the buy, but I'm a top 3 or 4 team. You're telling me it's going to be a late first. The way Pittman's been playing, it's hard to deny it. The problem with him is he's not going to have any, he's already, because he's playing well, his production's good, his dynasty peak, he's not going to get some kind of crazy dynasty rise, and his value insulation's not that great if he has a injury. I'm really interested to see, we saw Traven Henderson do well. I'm not necessarily buying this player because I already have a bunch of shares, but I'm really interested to see what RJ Harvey does this week, assuming that JK misses time here. That's it at the moment that I can think of, honestly. I'm going through just to make sure I'm not missing somebody, though. It's a really good question as well. Sometimes there's some deep stashes I'm trying to purchase, but I think I'm kind of, yeah, that would be it at the moment. Ugh, what are my thoughts on BTJ? Oh, are you buying Golden? I am not. Now, I could end up being totally wrong here, and I'm not like saying I dislike Golden completely, but there's just a I think the player is very talented, but I'm just looking at the situation, and it's like the longer it's gone on, look at Traven Henderson. At a certain point, it's like Vrabel has no choice. There was the 1 week where Terrell Jennings was relevant. You're like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? But eventually, because of the opportunity in front of him, injuries and, him continuing to just play better, he gets on the field and kind of does more. And, like, I don't know, Matthew Golden to me is just not, the Tucker Kraft injury, the Jaden Reed injury. He just hasn't seized the opportunity in front of him, which to me is worrisome, especially when you've already, Green Bay's drafted a receiver in the first round for, I don't even know how long it was prior to this. So, and he's also heading right now for what stat-wise I would, call the ugly face planner. And when you go to a face planner, for me, process-wise, there's definitely some cases where they've come back and done well. Excuse me. Think of JMO. Now, that one's kind of a little bit, in my opinion, JMO's a little bit of an outlier because it was a lot of the injury, right? He didn't really play and didn't really play that many games. So the face planner tag he got might have been a little bit more one-off. But like even Quentin Johnson. But to me, I'm just fading a face planner, a guy that doesn't really do enough in year one to me. Those guys typically don't end up panning out long-term. So I am not buying Golden personally. What are your thoughts on BTJ coming into the year? Okay. So I'll tell you that sometimes there are very rare times. Now, I'll tell you this. I wouldn't have seen him playing this poorly in the offense and the situation being like this. But in the offseason, sorry, kind of clear my throat here. In the offseason, to me, his price got really, really hyperinflated. And it made sense because of how well he played in the second half of the year. But there was definitely arguments for me that I personally was not anywhere near in the conversation of putting him in the, elite tier, like Malik Neighbors, Chase, and Jefferson, or even on the heels of those guys. For me, he was like in the back end of tier 2 or tier 3. I wish I would have been. Sometimes I wish, I just would have, leaned into my take a little more that. Not that he would be this bad, but to me, he was an overinflated asset in that if he didn't produce at an elite clip like he did at the second half of the year, he could have a lot of value loss. So what do I think about him? I still like the talent. I think he's he's a guy that has home run hitting speed, and he's also, a pretty good receiver. But this year, I do think the Trevor Lawrence thing is really interesting. Like, for someone to play with Trevor Lawrence, and if you look at their splits, his splits, with Trevor Lawrence and with Mac Jones, it's honestly unreal. And if you look at it now with Trevor Lawrence, what he did in the part of the year where Trevor Lawrence was healthy, and you see it now, it's like, dude, what the actual hell? I'm really worried, to be honest with you, because T-Law doesn't seem to be going anywhere. New offensive situation in the team. He's an asset that's really tough. He's honestly kind of, to me, getting into that Garrett Wilson range where it's like there's dynasty value there, but if I could pivot, even if I have to overpay a little bit to get back into the more solidified elite tier, I probably would do it. Yo, I know this is a Dynasty stream, but I have a redraft question for you. Of course. Hey, listen, you can ask me anything you want here. This is a Adam AMA on Dynasty. So redraft, have some people every now and again come in and ask me stuff that isn't even fantasy related. So my first week being a member, but been watching you guys on YouTube for years. Hey, appreciate it, Sean, and I appreciate you becoming a Big Dog member. You can ask me anything your heart desires, my friend. Ooh, I like this type of stuff. We're getting crazy here. In a 16-team league, I need a QB. I have Kyler and Milroe. Damn. Just hearing that sounds makes me feel for you. I will admit to you guys, I'm exhausted today. My youngest, she's 15 months. She's going through sleep regression. It's like every time your head hits the pillow and you finally fall asleep, you just hear that monitor and screaming. It's a brutal one today. But we're loving life, man. Everything's good. Everyone wants a lot for a quarterback. Okay. Well, so this is so interesting. 16-team Superflex, right? It makes it extreme. The scarcity is ridiculous, and in this market, you have to pay up for a quarterback. It's kind of crazy though because in like a 12-team Superflex league right now at the moment, right? The quarterback position I think is about as devalued as honestly I could ever remember it, which is pretty crazy. I have BTJ, Marv, Adunze, Trevion, Chase Brown, and 3 26 seconds and 3/3. Do I just overpay for quarterback? Well, I mean, you kind of see in the other problem in the 14 team and especially in a 16 team league like this, the leverage game is very clear aesthetically, right? Meaning you look at your team and it's like, dude, this guy doesn't have a single quarterback. So now they feel like they can kind of put the screws to you. If you're a contender, is this? I don't know if this is Dynasty or not, by the way. I think that probably plays into it as well. But let's assume you're a contending team and you're in the mix. I don't necessarily know how you pulled it off being a contender if you've only had Kyler and Milroe. But if you're a contending team and you need a quarterback, I mean, you kind of have no option, right, if you want to actually contend. If this is a team where you're a rebuilder, because I don't know that your record's all that great. If you're a rebuilder, I might be more of the mindset that I want to try to, draft one and try to go a different route than paying for one in this season if you don't need one. So let me know what the situation is there. What up, Jacob? What's popping, my friend? I'd buy Terrence Ferguson. I actually I don't mind that at all. I don't mind Terrence Ferguson at all. Definitely don't mind buying Terrence Ferguson. I think how would I put this? The tight end position in general, I don't typically put a lot of I don't try to get too crazy with putting and investing a lot of my assets there. But if I was to do such, a player that's kind of out of sight, out of mind, like Terrence Ferguson seems to be a lot in Dynasty, where I can acquire him cheap, and I think I have someone that I can, watch develop. I could see it. The other problem is I just want to see for him. I would love to see more opportunity, but I believe in the talent. I think when you look at a guy like Stafford, hopefully he keeps playing because he is dealing right now. Yes, it's Dynasty, and I'm not a contender this year. Okay, so yeah, I would say this. Like right now, that's the least of my worries is buying one right now because, one, you don't need the points, right? If you're not a contender, I actually just keep the points off, and you have a legitimate lineup. This is one of those things where I think, there's like tanking etiquette or code, whatever. If I don't have a quarterback, right, and I can't start one, and like you just said, the market's basically trying to put the screws to me and make me overpay. I'm just going to keep trotting out the best quarterbacks I have, which are guys that aren't going to play and score. So that's going to be beneficial for me driving my team closer to a better pick, and not scoring points. And then in the offseason, I think you'll have a lot of opportunities to what I would be doing in a league like this, and it's still tough because in 16 team, everybody wants to roster all these guys. I think you got to probably – obviously see if you can get one that's drafted in the draft, but I'm probably going through and trying to get a lot of different speculative quarterbacks if I can anywhere, if they're reasonable, price wise, throwing in to trades. Like you look across the league this year, and then at any time a quarterback might come available. I don't know how deep your roster spots are, but guys like this year, Carson Wentz, gross as it was, he gave you 5 weeks. Like those guys are huge, and making sure you have your fab budget appropriated for that. But I'm not worried about it in the season. This is probably when you're going to get taxed more so than not for a quarterback. I'd probably try to buy in the offseason if I could. Excuse me. All right, redraft question. Let's get to it. What do you think of this trade? I already did it. Just want some perspective. I love it. I got you. Half PPR. Okay, so you're starting 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and a flex. Puka and Olave for my Herbert, Devontae Adams, and Judkins. Is this – well, I'll say this. Herbert is a nice piece in this deal. I don't know if you were, like, really, hamstrung at the quarterback position. That definitely makes – oh, and you're getting the Puka side? Oh, I like your side a lot better. I was getting ready to try to just think about it, like if I would have done the other side. No, I think I want Puka. As you see, I'm rocking the jersey, man. I had him at wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. I got him at 2. It really doesn't matter. It's kind of, in my opinion, in Dynasty – not that big of a deal because it's kind of just semantics, if you will. But Puka to me is an absolute stud, and for the rest of the year, I think he could end up, going back to what we saw in the early part of the year where he's just breaking fantasy. Devontae Adams, I like him a lot, but the problem with him, I think, if you look at it, is he's going to end up being, while he's a great asset, he's very touchdown dependent. A lot of his stats have come from touchdowns. And Judkins to Olave at this point, honestly, for me, I probably would lean Judkins just because I typically like to have in a half PPR league a running back. But Olave's been playing a lot better. His points production has been, at least so far. So in one quarterback league, I would imagine that you can, while it isn't Herbert, you can probably throw in, you could find a way to get a guy at the quarterback position that's going to give you similar points, replacement level points. So, here's your team context, by the way. I should have read this first. Running backs are A-Chain, Harvey, and Bucky. I'll be starting CD Buka alongside Puka. I will say your team ended up giving you probably the conviction to do this, and it ended up breaking in your favor. I mean, Harvey at the moment, we still, it's a projection, but God forbid Tyler Beatty's out there a whole bunch or some crazy shit. But the injury to Dobbins, RJ Harvey should be sliding up, and then getting Bucky back probably makes you feel. I could totally get moving on from Judkins in this situation there. Oh, you have Stafford at quarterback, and you got the Puka stack. I mean, you obviously had the stack with Adams too, but yeah, crazy one. I think when I'm just real quickly to kind of put a bow on it. This is one of those trades to me that, like, I'd imagine. I guess I can't really say. I don't know what your league's like. A lot of times in a redraft league, especially in the league chat, people get crazy and up in arms about this because people, for whatever reason, they really kind of hold true into their priors and like where people were drafted. So Puka, he's also been playing well when not hurt. So Puka to me is like the stud. That's just, it's worth tearing up for in a league like this. I don't know how many you're starting. Oh, you did say so. It's one quarterback, so that's 2, 4, 5. Are you starting only 6 players and then a defense and a kicker? Good night. Yeah, you want to tear up in that format. Okay. Yeah, great trade though, Josh. In my opinion. Okay, it's a 12-team PPR league. You're currently in first. I have Tyler Warren on a bye and a lot of depth and a lot of quality depth in this league. It's competitive. Wondering your thoughts on if I should drop Tez Johnson, Tajay Spears, or Rashad White. I've also contemplated not getting rid of any of them and taking a donut at tight end this week. Redraft, I don't think I would take the donut if I didn't have to. And here's what I think I'm dropping Tajay. Dude, the Titans, it's just a team for redraft purposes that I'm comfortable fading, frankly. Like they are just not competent. So that's probably would be my personal, if I was gonna cut one here, that would be it. But I guess the other question is who's out there? Is the tight ends available? Like, could you find Kate Otten may not be out there, but somebody that has like reasonable chance to score, get 6 catches and possibly fall in the end zone. If it's like decent on the wire, I would definitely add that in because I don't know how close you are to securing a bye or losing a bye. That plays a huge factor to me. I want to definitely secure a bye. One of the things in fantasy football is the amount. If you just look actually on South Harmon, and this is Dynasty, but a lot of the same numbers correlate to redraft. When you look at who wins the championship, the percentages are incredibly more favorable to the 1 and the 2 seed. And that's just simply because they don't have to play an extra week, right? It's only a 2-week playoff for them. So I think for me, you never know if you end up taking that donut and you lost the week and you found a way to not get a bye, that would fucking blow. So that's where I'm kind of at on that one. Where's A-Chain at in your ranks? I got him at RB4. How much would it change in a new scheme? 2 very good questions. So I actually shout out to BDGE.co, all the big dog members in here. You can go get a look at my Dynasty ranks. I have updated them today. I've been kind of toying around with updating them even further. I think I have them at the moment at 5. Yeah, actually I got them at 5. So I don't have a problem with them at 4. Honestly, I think Bijan, Gibbs, and Taylor, they got to go ahead. That's where I'm at personally. So that's you want to have them at 4, 5, 6, whatever. I still really like Genty, but I don't think it's I think this is the thing about it. With Genty, if you're a contender and you're relying on him for like elite level points, it's probably not coming because of the offense. But he's actually he's been a lot better lately. I think you can see the talent a mile away, but the situation just we needed to improve. So but I think I got A-Chain at 5. how much would the change in scheme matter? One thing I'll say is it would, but not by a huge degree. One thing, if you go back to Achane, okay, and go take a look. I was talking about Rico Dowdle earlier. Achane, what was that, year 2, when he kind of went crazy, he had some games where, he had that, whatever it was versus Denver, he had over 200 yards, all those touchdowns. You saw the long speed and him basically have this home run hitting ability, but he didn't actually get the work in that season. Going into the next year, we're like, man, if he just gets the volume, this guy is going to, break fantasy. Well, that was 2024, last season. If you look at last year for Achane, it was like the opposite. It's literally like everything flipped on its head. He didn't have those home run hitting, plays, but he got a bunch of volume. And the other thing he showed that year, especially as well as now, is his pass catching ability and their ability to just use him in that way. Tua is a guy that will check it down, for sure. But I think what was really lost, we have seen him finally hit some home runs this year, but not as many. They lost Robert Hunt going into 2024, one of the best guards in football. He goes over to Carolina. And to me, that's one of these things where when you have a great offensive line and you're a talented running back, like the sky's the limit. So I think that's actually kind of capped a lot of his upside. And all that to say, if he was to go into a different scheme, I would probably knock him down, because you love basically in McDaniel's offense the Shanahan type scheme. But I think if he goes to a situation where the offensive line's better and they're going to use him in the passing game still, I don't even know that it could end up being better somewhere else. So I think confidently at this point we can say that the weight is not an issue, the size isn't really an issue. He's an outlier from that perspective, but he's fantasy gold. He can do it all. If he was a little bigger and got a lot more like goal line work on a better team, oh my gosh, man, it'd be crazy. Of course, my guy. Of course, man. What are a few wide receiver names you'd buy for a mid to late first rounder? Actually, I was just talking about this earlier. I think Pittman is worthwhile. There's actually, it's funny, I don't know if someone's gonna some people that I've rejected actually that type of a trade for are gonna watch us back and say I'm capping. But it comes down to my team. If I'm clearly a playoff team that's flirting with a bye, or knock on wood, basically, if I don't have a bunch of crazy injuries, I'm kind of locked into a playoff spot. I think I'm okay with this for Pittman. I think would be one that typically I've seen get done or is reasonable. That'd probably be, I'm assuming here in this scenario, you're just looking as the contender. A mid, I would not do this for. Honestly, to me, Davante Adams is kind of an interesting one, because I've seen him go for first. I've seen him go for, literally, we just did a trade show going to come out tomorrow on South Harmon, where he was in, I think, 2 or 3 deals. And if Davante Adams is worth, I think a late first, like if I need to be a playoff buy team in order to be willing to send away my first, I would consider doing it. But if he can be had for a second, early second, couple seconds, I think it's worthwhile. The other thing about Davante Adams is he's just such a good route runner. He might actually be decent even next year too. So, and one of the things about Davante Adams, I'll say this last part, if it's a mid first, like if my team's not clearly as a driver's seat contender, in getting a bye, I don't think I would send Adams there. So, send the first for Adams in that scenario. But one last part on Adams to note, he has a contract with the Rams technically for next year, but there's basically no guaranteed money, so the Rams could get out of it. And basically, what you'll see with Adams is, like, if they opted in, right, that would mean Stafford's coming back, and they're coming full circle with this again. If he was to, if they opt out and he's a free agent, basically Davante Adams also controls his ability to take cheaper deals. Then he probably could get on a shitty team and make sure he stays with a really good quarterback that's a good thrower of the football. So I think that's one of the biggest keys for Adams is when he's with Rodgers and guys that know where he's going and know how to get him the football. I think he's actually got more in the tank than even just this year. Let me give you a couple more names though. Actually, sorry, I'm out here just yapping like crazy. Hold on, let me pull up my ranks and give you a couple names to go through here. So you're talking for a late first. I think this is a dangerous game though, because I've seen people send their first away for players that are very fringe, and those deals I'm very leery of. Like, man, we get to this range of Courtland Sutton's a good one as well. I think Courtland Sutton's a good one. It feels gross, but And I will say the problem is that offenses look so bad. If you wanted to hold off on that one, I wouldn't blame you. I'm gonna be honest, man. It gets gross quick. Yeah, I think Pittman and Adams would be probably like my floor. It's really gross because of the age, but I think Pittman's a really good target. Metcalf DK is not a bad one. But man, when I get much past that, I just can't. I'm just not willing to send first. And basically, if I can't get guys like that for a first, can I go get someone was just talking about here on a redraft league? Can I go get Tez Johnson, Parker Washington? Can I go get kind of a spot start or a guy that could end up being pretty decent for the second half of the season? I don't have to have a long-term player here. Would be the way I approach it. Okay, so sorry, I'm trying to keep my 10 team. Oh yeah, in 10 team definitely. So in a 10 team that would make that list even more like fixed. Because in 10 team, it's more. All the players they're not spread across as many teams, so everyone's team's typically a little better. So I'm definitely not sending a first for any players below that kind of mark in a 10-team league. Okay, 14 team start 12 super flex. Sending a second with Kraft to get Arande. I couldn't do this, brother. I couldn't do that. If you got a third back, if you got a third back, I could do it. I like Gadsden, bro, but damn. The injury, sometimes the injury discount to me is one that I'll avoid if it gets too pricey. Meaning, if I have to basically throw Tucker Kraft in and give you a better pick for what I feel like isn't necessarily a better player, maybe I'm just better off holding on to Tucker Kraft, and I'll have him back next year, and then use essentially my draft pick on its own to just go buy a player. But I think here, if you get a third back, I would be perfectly fine with it. Spears is what I was thinking as well. My other running backs are Jalen Warren, Chase Brown, Hampton, and Benson IR. Yeah, Spears is definitely the drop, Sean. Yeah, Theo Johnson is actually been doing pretty well, and given all the injuries, in New York, they're gonna have to be throwing the football, and I mean, you already know what's coming this week. Jameis is a little odd with tight ends. Sometimes he doesn't use them as much as other quarterbacks, but Theo's a great pickup, man. I think you have to. You owe it to yourself. Add Theo, drop Tajay. That's what I have. Two of the top. Yeah. You're talking the running back ranks. What's the current WoRP difference maker you can get for cheap right now? That's a very good question too. I'll pull that up. It's actually funny. If you wanted to, Christian, as well, we did Mike and I did on South Harmon a new 40 chess where we actually went through we tried to anyway, a season in review of WoRP and where it's at right now. It ended up being kind of hyper fixated on the quarterback position because last year the quarterback position started really bad as far as WoRP or points per game, and then it picked up in the second half. But this year it has not moved and it's rough. So it ended up being kind of primarily focused on the quarterback position. We may revisit next week, but it's a good deeper dive if you wanted to. But let me just go ahead and pull up a league here and give you some. Also, Christian, I don't know if this is how standard of a league this is or is not. If you want to give me your league name, I can pull WoRP up there. There's a handful of them though. I mean, obviously, cheap is the key word that's defined cheap. I'm gonna pull that up and I'll go through it with you though. I'll even take some names for. Oh, you got 101 and 102? Well, I mean, dude, if you have 101 and 102, like if I have a pick that I can tell you, and the rest of the league will kind of give you the go ahead. Oh yeah, this is an early pick. This is a top 1, 2, or 3 pick. That's one where, man, I'm shooting high. You're gonna have to pay me for that pick. So if that's the case, we can get greasy. But let me just give you a couple names here. Well, I'll tell you, the Burrow thing sucks because Flacco was top of the list as far as the cheapness goes of producing. I don't know how cheap Rico or Javante are anymore. They were pretty reasonably acquirable. I'll tell you, you know what? I'm going to give you a good name. People hate it still. And I've been on this unfortunate bandwagon for a while. DeAndre Swift is a really good one, I think, that you can still get for reasonably cheap. I think at the running back position, Swift is a good ask because people don't really view him, obviously, anywhere like I think what you would view a Rico or a Javante. And he's not, but he's running back 14 as far as WoRP goes. He's basically given you everything that Breece Hall has given you so far, or that Rico has as well. Which that's kind of skewed because Rico had all those weeks where Chuba was getting the work, or he wasn't getting the full workload. But I think Swift is a really good cheap option. Let me give you a couple more if I can find them here. I don't really buy into Keenan Allen for the rest of the year personally, but that'd be like an ultra gross cheap one, I would say. I was trying to see if there's anyone at the tight end position. Honestly, there isn't. I mean, Hunter Henry always makes that list if you needed a tight end. Okay, you're saying wide receiver for the 101, 102. I'll get to you. I got one here. Out of Sutton, Tet, Rashad White, who would you bench this week? Full PPR? Gosh, that's tough. I think I would probably roll with Sutton and Tet and sit Rashad White if it was full PPR. I know, say what you want, but that's me just because I feel like the upside lies still with Tet and Sutton despite their situation. So I think they have a little more upside. Probably not necessarily as safe of a floor, but that's what I would go with in full PPR. If it was half PPR, I think you might want to sit Sutton, and it's hard to sit Sutton, but that offense just looked so bad. I need to see some better out of them. Half PPR. Okay, half PPR flex one this week. Worthy, Jacoby Myers, or Gadsden? Dude, I don't think I can do it with. I don't think I can do it right now with Xavier Worthy. Rashi's coming, kind of killed the Xavier Worthy hope. I think I'd roll with Jacoby Myers. Although with this out here, I typically in a non-tight end premium half PPR like this don't even really give tight ends much consideration. But Gadsden's worth consideration here for sure. I think I'd probably roll with Jacoby Myers though. It kind of sucks, Josh. That list feels so much grosser than you would hoped it was earlier in the year. Yeah. So yeah, and that's what I was going through. By the way, Christian, was the I can actually here. I'll show you real quick. I've got so this is your idiot league mates I was looking at, which is it's start 10 lineup regular PPR. There's no crazy scoring. Caveats. It's regular PPR. There's no tight end premium, so the scoring is very vanilla. It's super flex. I'll go through here and show you. I mean, right now, Jonathan Taylor, and this is one of the things I talked about when looking at WoRP. This is wins over replacement player. This tool you can find on southharmonff.com. It's a paid tool, but it shows you literally basically how valuable players are at different positions. If you're interested in this tool, you want to get access to it, shoot me a DM, and I'll get any of the big dogs a promo code to try it out for free. But you can see basically it calculates every week what the players are worth in your specific league relative to the replacement options. So it gives you a good visual of that. So what I was going to say, Devontae Adams is, obviously doing well. A lot of that's touchdowns, but I think the touchdowns are still going to come. Javonte Williams has been great, but this is one thing I wanted to touch on real quick. Jonathan Taylor is doing ridiculous stuff right now, 10 weeks in. He could shatter fantasy if he keeps this up. Crazily enough, though, Christian McCaffrey just off volume is damn near doing the same thing. You can also go over here and click the lines off if you want to get like a better, easier pinpoint at just one specific position. So running back was, I think Rico's here at 11. And here's DeAndre Swift at 14, by the way. That was one that I think is worthwhile. I don't think Travis Etienne's all that cheap, but he's probably just as much of a buy as Swift is if the prices are similar. I feel like the problem is Etienne's typically going to be people are going to be asking more for Etienne. Dude, Scottable's already missed a couple weeks. I had him in your idiot league list. Damn, having his injury kills you. Last year was the craziest thing I ever seen. Chris Godwin was the number one player in WoRP for, I think it was three or 4 weeks still after he was injured. That's how good he was. Let me give you the wide receiver position rundown here. Yeah, Sutton is a cheaper one, and I was just going to see if it. Honestly, Stephon Diggs is probably a decent cheap one too. So that's what I would say for cheap WoRP buys. Those guys should all be able to be had for well less than a first, obviously. Okay, now that was good. If you want me to go over this, I can though. All right, wide receiver for the 101, 102. Sorry, no, I mean you're good. Listen, do not apologize on AMA here on the big dog Q and Assault for asking me questions. That's what you're supposed to do. No apology necessary. I mean, the 101 and 102 in this class unfortunately won't get you. Probably won't net you what it used to in some other better classes from perception. There's some really talented running backs though, so I'd be curious where it ends up falling in like startup value in the offseason. I mean, it's not going to get you, it's not going to get you anywhere near those top 7-8 receivers. The CDs, Amon-Ra, Jefferson, blah blah blah. I mean, here's the thing though, I understand that it won't get me those guys. But if I'm moving off the 101, 102, there's probably, frankly, I need to get back a guy like an Igbuka, a guy like London, a guy like, if you believe in Rashi, I know some people are, he's polarizing, a guy like him, a Rome Odunze, and that's probably end the list for me, dude. Maybe Ted if you really believe in him, because I'd almost rather, if I can't get to that point, like if we're getting to the point where it's, the Brian Thomas Jr.'s, Garrett Wilson, Marv, I'm good. I'm going to keep the pick. I'm not sending it for players of that caliber. So I think your sweet spot probably is in that range. But it's going to come down to my league and essentially, do they value this pick appropriately? And are they really going to let me pivot into it's got to be like roughly a top 12 wide receiver in Dynasty. Otherwise, I'm good. Have you looked at the 26 class in depth yet? Is there some guys you're targeting or too early? I have looked at it. I love watching college. I will say I don't get to watch every single game like I used to since making content, but I do love watching college. I do have a pretty good handle and grasp on the 26 class. I will say one of the things for me, so it's actually funny, where I actually got into making content was over, it's called Destination Devi. Ray Garvin runs it over there. That was the first opportunity I had to really make content on a platform that wasn't, Mike and I, when we started South Harmon, it was a little Patreon with 30 people in it. Because in Devi, you get really excited for the young players, and what I basically found is, and this is why I don't try to put and push too much information on the 26 class as far as the specific players, is a lot of times right now even, and especially too early on in the process, the players that we're really excited for end up either flaming out, or players that are, maybe not quite 5 stars, not quite as highly touted, end up passing other guys. So I like to kind of wait a little bit closer as far as going through specific players in detail with you guys a little bit later on, because I've just found that it ends up being less useful information. But there's, Jeremiah Love is the clear number one prospect in the class. I really like Nick Singleton coming out of Penn State. I feel terrible for him. It's kind of crazy. I think he would have gone in day 2 had he gone last year and come out of the college. He could have early declared. He goes back to school. This is crazy. Think about this. Penn State plays Notre Dame, speaking of which, Jeremiah Love's on the other side. They play in the the game. Basically, the winner goes to the national championship game. They barely lost that game. Drew Aller had a crazy turnover that cost him. So he's thinking, all right, I got to come back to school. I want to come back to school to try to, go win the title this year. Boy, you come back to school and that sorry ass team. That would be crazy for me to think about that situation. And then I think at the top is Jordan Tyson. I'll tell you this: we could actually at some point, one of these streams here. I'll tell you this, Dylan. I'll go through probably when the playoffs are over, or if there's a window in there you guys really want me to. We could do a stream where I talk a little bit more about the 26 class, because especially this class, because the narratives are so strong about how bad it is. I do think it's worth diving in a little more into that. So I would say that this is what I would say though, and if you just look across any class, this is why I've been pretty more of an advocate of buying the picks, and that the picks are still going to hold value. Even classes that sucked in the past, or we said sucked, what happens is late in the process, there's names that we just don't really think that highly of, or never thought would be here, so to speak, like potential first round picks, early second round picks. Think of a guy like Ladd McConkey, honestly. Now, granted, that was a loaded class, but nobody saw him going out and killing the combine like he did. Nobody saw him getting, early second round, almost first round draft capital going to a team that had a guy like Justin Herbert. So there's a lot of guys that can be late risers in the process. So that's where I would say I wouldn't panic too much, although the 26 class does not project to be deep. I'm not going to try to sell you on the fact that it is. That's what I'm doing as well. But Rashad's sleeper projection is higher. Yeah, and I'll tell you this, Sean. This is for me. I've gotten comfortable just being laughed at. Meaning, if it blows up my face, I don't really care. But if it blows up my face, I know that could happen. But I basically don't really put much thoughts into the projections anymore when I've set my lineup. Obviously, everybody would love to look at their lineup and see the projection really high, and you typically want to start the player that's projected for more. But there's definitely exceptions to the rule. I don't know. Rachaad White to me is kind of just a meh start, personally. Not that I wouldn't start him, and I don't start him in certain spots, but I think the upside of Tet and Sutton are higher. JT and Alec Pierce on bye, and Wilson on IR. Yeah, not fun. Dude, I was just showing you WoRP. In your Idiot League mates, I've been kind of scratching, clawing, trying to scrape by. My points for are actually decent, but I just keep getting crushed. I have the most points against, but again, my team's not the greatest. It's got some projections of Marv and Genty that just aren't panning out. But I just don't have any. I don't really have much depth there. I had Scatterbo already make my running back room thin. Then J.K. Dobbins gets hurt. Then Marv's on with the appendicitis. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna have to roll out a running back that's just terrible this week. So, listen, man, buys and injuries. This is every year. It sucks. You get to this point, you're like, what the hell? How did this happen? Appreciate you, my dude. Yeah, if you want to go check out more stuff, we do stuff on South Harmon Dynasty Fantasy Football channel. But on a weekly basis right now, still dropping the Big Dog streams. I appreciate you, Christian. Appreciate you guys all being here. If you do want to be a part of these, literally every single week, for about an hour, come kick it, ask you whatever questions. You ask me whatever questions you'd like. Talk Dynasty, talk Redraft, talk, start sits. You just want to ask me about something random off the wall. It's going to cost you $9.99 a month. But for that price, I feel like in today's economy, you can't get much better than that. You get the Dynasty rankings. You get Nick's Redraft rankings every week. You get live streams, access directly to Nick and myself on a weekly basis, as well as the Discord. So pretty great deal, frankly. So make sure y'all are tapping in to these if you want to be a part of them. That's how you can do it. If not, you just want to keep watching them through, put questions down in the comments. Let me know if you have any. Also, just make sure you go ahead. Oh, I'm getting a call here from my mother, but make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Come be a part of the squad here. We're going to be doing at least weekly videos for the rest of the season on live stream. Right now, the editing ability that we have is not allowing me to do weekly videos that are, posted and dropped like in the past. But as soon as the season's over, we'll probably be getting into multiple videos a week as well, Nick and myself. So go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe. If not, I will see you back here, same time, same place, next week. I love all you boys and girls. I'm out of here. Smoochies.